Hey guys, in this video we're going to look at the chords of the Phrygian mode, also Phrygian Dominant, how these chords are formed, what they sound like, and how you can use them to compose some really cool chord progressions. Now in another video I introduced these 7 modes and how each one is unique, but in this video we're going to focus on Phrygian specifically, which can sound especially tense or exotic to Western ears anyway, but that you can also use to create, like I say, some really cool sounds. Okay, so jumping right in and using the key of C as an example, here's what the common C Ionian mode sounds like first, also known as the major scale. Starting on C, the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To play the Phrygian mode, we flatten intervals 2, 3, 6, and 7 to get this pattern. Compared to the Ionian mode, Phrygian sounds more dark and mysterious because of the flatted notes. This pattern is similar to the minor scale or the Aeolian mode that's almost identical actually, except that the Aeolian doesn't have a flatted 2, it has a natural 2. So C Aeolian is... And with its flatted 2, Phrygian has a mysterious feel as well, but one that's even more exotic. You can hear that a lot of this tension comes from scale degrees 1 and flat 2. Just bouncing back and forth between these two intervals is the Jaws theme. If I go a little lower, you can hear that right out of the gate, this has an inherently dark quality. And you can use this mysterious sound, this quality of the Phrygian mode, to create some really good music, especially when you build out the 7 chords that stem from this pattern, which you can do by starting on each respective scale degree of the Phrygian mode and then combining every other note. Like this, starting on C, skip a note to play E flat, skip another note to play G, and together these 3 notes, C, E flat, and G, make C minor. Then starting on D flat, skip a note to play F, skip another note to play A flat, together D flat, F, and A flat makes the D flat major chord. And then moving through the other intervals in this mode, you get E flat major, F minor, G diminished, A flat major, B flat minor, and then back to C minor. By starting on each separate note of the Phrygian mode and then combining every other note, these 7 chords are formed, and they're called tertian harmonies because the intervals between the notes in each chord are major and minor thirds, and the word tertian is Latin for thirds. When we look at these chords in a table format like this, it's easy to follow how they're constructed, where some intervals are major thirds and others are minor thirds, resulting in a range of harmonies, where C minor, F minor, and B flat minor are minor chords, D flat major, E flat major, and A flat major are major chords, and then the G diminished chord built from 2 minor third intervals feels especially tense or dissonant. To label these chords, we use Roman numerals that tell us which scale degree of the mode is the foundation of that chord. The minor 1 chord is built on scale degree 1 of the C Phrygian mode, or the C note. The flat major 2 chord is built on scale degree flat 2 of the mode, or D flat. Flat major 3 is built on scale degree flat 3, or E flat. Minor 4 is on F. Diminished 5 is on G. Flat major 6 is on A flat. And flat minor 7 is on B flat. Where the lowercase numerals, minor 1, minor 4, and flat minor 7 are minor chords. The uppercase numerals, flat major 2, flat major 3, and flat major 6 are major chords. And the little O on 5 means that it's diminished. Now using these chords, we can play some different chord progressions that sound good and that really accentuate the dramatic feel of the Phrygian mode, which is what we're going to look at next. But first, it's important to remember that Phrygian is just another mode of the major scale or the Ionian mode. The Phrygian mode, like this C Phrygian, begins on the 3rd scale degree of its relative Ionian mode, which in this case is A flat Ionian. Both both of these patterns, A-flat Ionian and C Phrygian, are made of the same notes, but have different sounds because each pattern has a different tonic or tonal home base. As a result, the interval pattern that begins and ends on A-flat sounds bright and happy, while the Phrygian pattern on C sounds relatively dark and mysterious. But again, both of these patterns, A-flat Ionian and C Phrygian, are made from the same notes, and by extension, the various chords in these modes are also the same. In A-flat Ionian, the 7 chords are A-flat major, B-flat minor, C minor, D-flat major, E-flat major, F minor, G diminished, and then back to A-flat major. Or major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7, and then back to major 1 again. In C Phrygian, the same 7 chords are formed, but since C becomes scale degree 1, C minor is a minor 1 chord, D flat major is a flat major 2, E flat major is a flat major 3 chord, and so on. So really, whenever you play in the Phrygian mode, it's all the same familiar major, minor, and diminished chords from Ionian, but where the function or role of each chord has shifted. So in order to keep a chord progression sounding distinctly Phrygian, it's important to emphasize the minor 1 chord as much as possible, establishing and reinforcing that harmony as the tonal home base. Otherwise, a progression might naturally gravitate toward the flat major 6, which is the tonic or major 1 in the relative Ionian mode, wanting to resolve to that chord instead. So the chords you choose in a Phrygian progression are important to retain that exotic Phrygian feel. The most distinct movement in this mode is the movement between the minor 1 and the flat major 2, or in the key of C Phrygian, that's C minor and D flat major. Just by riffing on these 2 chords, we can conjure up that distinctly mysterious sound of the Phrygian mode. And by adding in the flat major 3 chord or E flat major in C Phrygian, for example, we can expand the movement and still keep within this exotic sound. Or we can throw in the flat minor 7 chord, B flat minor in this case, for even more variety. Always resolving to the minor 1 chord, in this case C minor, to reinforce the minor 1 as the tonal home base. So by moving through the different chords in this mode, you can create some really cool sounds because of the intervals that form this pattern. But what's even better is there's actually a special connection between all of the chords in the Phrygian mode based on the tertian intervals between them that clarifies how you can craft naturally compelling chord progressions as you write a song. Looking again at the pattern of tertian intervals used to build each chord, it actually forms a continuous chain that ties everything together into a string of major thirds and minor thirds that binds every note of the Phrygian mode like this. And the sequence of alternating intervals highlights the natural connections between chords that really can cycle on forever when we wrap this pattern into a closed loop like this as a more compact view of how these chords of the Phrygian mode relate to each other. These are all the same chords as before in a given key, in this example C Phrygian, but laid out in a natural formation. The minor 1 chord, C minor, is made from notes C, E flat, and G. The flat major 2 chord, D flat major, includes notes D flat, F, and A flat. The flat major 3 chord, E flat major, is made from notes E flat, G, and B flat, etc. And in this layout, you can see how all of these chords are connected from one to the next, which we can depict more simply by the respective root note and Roman numeral of each. So we have C minor, minor 1, E flat major, the flat major 3, G diminished, the diminished 5 chord, B flat minor, the flat minor 7 chord, D flat major, the flat major 2 chord, F minor, minor 4, A flat major, the flat major 6 chord, and then back to C minor, the minor 1 again. And by exploring this harmonic space, you can start to see even more clearly how songwriters navigate the Phrygian mode to compose different chord progressions. Like the minor 1, flat major 2 chord progression that we just played, where the movement flows between these chords like this. Or the minor 1, flat major 3, flat major 2, minor 1 progression as another example. By ultimately resolving on the minor 1 chord, we're reinforcing the fact that we're in the Phrygian mode. And again, this movement between the flat major 2 and the minor 1 really emphasizes this exotic sound. Though honestly, it was a little harder to find song examples that are purely in Phrygian. Instead, a lot of songs that people cite as being Phrygian are really based on a similar scale pattern called the Phrygian Dominant that's really the 5th mode of the harmonic minor scale. And in another video, I explain this in more detail. But basically, when we take this harmonic minor scale, which is another fundamental pattern in music, and then derive the different modes from it, this 5th mode happens to be very similar to Phrygian proper, but with a natural 3 instead of a flat 3. So the interval pattern is 1, flat 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 8. And it's called dominant, Phrygian dominant, because it's the 5th mode of harmonic minor, based on the 5th scale degree of that pattern. Also known as the dominant because the 5th scale degree is next in importance to the 1st scale degree, or the tonic. And when we loop this pattern into a ring of harmonic space, it looks like this, where we can move between the different chords that are formed to create some cool progressions. Like Jefferson Airplane did in their 1967 classic White Rabbit, at least in the verse sections of the song, where the chords move back and forth between the major 1 and flat major 2. In the key of F sharp, that's F sharp major, G major, F sharp major, G major, back and forth. And this exotic sound reinforces the surreal imagery of the lyrics inspired by Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland.
You small, and the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all.
Another example of Phrygian Dominant that has a similar sound is The Hunter by Björk that is in the key of G. Much of the song moves between G major, the major 1 chord, and A flat major, the flat major 2 chord, between these two chords. And then in the bridge section, the progression moves through a regular Phrygian progression of A flat major, the flat major 2, E flat major, the flat major 6 chord, F minor, the flat minor 7 chord, then G minor, the minor 1 chord, back to A flat major, the flat major 2 chord. So it sounds like this.
I thought I could organize freedom. How Scandinavian of me, and gambling, and you sussed it out, didn't you? You could smell it. So you left me on my own.
And then as one last example of a song in Phrygian Dominant, and my personal favorite of this group, is Muse's song Break It To Me in the key of B, which in the intro moves between chords D major, which is a flat major 3 chord borrowed from the regular Phrygian mode, back to the major 1 chord, or B major, from the Phrygian Dominant, and it moves between those chords several times. And then in the verse section, it drones on a B major chord, the major 1, a lot of the song, is riffing on that major 1 chord. And then there's this hauntingly beautiful progression in the chorus that moves between E minor, the minor 4 chord, A minor, the flat minor 7 chord, D major, borrowed from the Phrygian, which is a flat major 3 chord, then to B major, the major 1, back to E minor, the minor 4 chord, A minor, the flat minor 7 chord, to C major, the flat major 2, to F sharp major, which is a major 5 chord. It's a borrowed major 5 from the harmonic minor, and then back to B major, the major 1 chord. So here's what the song sounds like. Of course, these are just a few examples, but you'll often hear these exotic, dark, mysterious sounds of Phrygian and Phrygian Dominant in genres like these. Rap, metal, hip-hop, Spanish flamenco, Turkish music, jazz, trap, electronica, and psychedelic trance often use these patterns to create some awesome sounds. So thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you thought this was a good one. Join the conversation below. And if you want to get diagrams of the Phrygian and Phrygian Dominant patterns in all 12 keys, then definitely check out the color music community at Locals. I've got a link in the video notes below where you can find, like I say, those diagrams and all sorts of good stuff. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.